Hello and welcome, as always, to the Gig Stories podcast with me, Alex, and him, Christopher. Him, who has just been to a gig at the Deaf Institute for the very first time to see Echo Belly, and you were there with your best friend, weren't you, Payne?
With my best friend.
Yeah. Oh, Christopher.
Me and Muzzy.
So you will have heard, regular listeners, not viewers, regular listeners will know that Chris loves Echo Belly and has seen them live how many times? A few times.
Well, a few times, but they're a special band to me because they played at my Freshers Week. So I'd only been at Glasgow Uni for a few days before Freshers Week started, and I wasn't really blown away by many of the bands that were playing at the Freshers Week. We had Urban Species.
Wow, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, there's a blast. And then there was another one, another one-hit wonder was Freak Power.
Where was it? Brighton. I compared a family festival. This was at my sort of CBeebies peak days, and we had, if I remember rightly, Zingzillas, and where I first met Tom Gray from Gomez.
Yeah.
He came along with his kids, and I introduced on stage Freak Power.
Freak Power, brilliant. And was the lead, because the lead singer trombonist as well?
Huge, like 10 foot tall as well. He still had his fur coat, and it was hilarious because I was like,
yeah,
Zingzillas, Alex from CBeebies, Freak Power.
Yeah, but also he wouldn't look out of place in Zingzillas either with that massive coat. But am I misremembering that he played trombone as well? Or is that just adding to the...
No, I think
is that just making it even more ridiculous?
Because actually his band are fabulous musicians and they still play in various outfits. And I think you are right. I think he plays a brass instrument.
Right. Well, if he does play a brass instrument, then it's definitely the trombone. Yeah, and they were great. I wasn't really looking forward to... I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm so glad I'm at Glasgow Uni so that I can see Freak Power. I wasn't thinking that at all. But Echo Belly had a couple of singles out, and I was, listening to the evening session, was it Thursday night? I can't remember. Wednesday. I can't remember what night it was on. But yeah, I was a massive fan, and I'm not even sure if the album had come out.
I had a single. I'm getting a Kiss album this week. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Kiss albums.
Who's releasing Kiss albums?
Comeback. So I bought, sorry to bore you, the Kasumback.
A Kasumback.
I bought the new, or one of the packages for the new Sam Fender album, and it was CD, or special edition CD, cassette album, and a signed beer mat, which is in the post. But yeah, cassettes, kids, that's the new retro thing. I've sent a few of my favourite cassettes to my friend's daughter because it's now the cool thing. They're all wearing Walkmans and listening to cassettes again. I know that makes me feel old. That makes me feel really old. That is retro.
Yeah, I know.
Oh no!
Well,
I've got a print of cassettes. It's an art piece on my dining room wall, and it's cassettes that my wife did for me, and it's got songs that relate to various things. And I remember my kids, my kids, and they just looked at me and went, "What is that a picture of?" And I just went, "Cassettes." And George was like, "What are they?" And I was, oh my God.
Yeah, but then if you try and describe it, so it's like a small thing about the size of a pack of playing cards, and it's made of plastic, and inside it there's this kind of ribbon, and it's wound around. If you want to save yourself time,
you put a pen in it and you spin it round to rewind it to save the batteries on your Walkman.
Yeah, and if you want to record on it, you put some blue tack in the little gap on the top.
If you don't want to record it, and write on it, "Do not record." Do you know what this is? I don't know if this. I don't know what this is, but being the person that I am, I'm going to claim this as a very working class thing. So Father Christmas would leave a pack of blank cassettes in my stocking, and that was a massive treat. I was like, "Oh yeah, blank cassettes, yes."
Yeah, absolutely. And then you would record the top 40, the Christmas top 40 on one of those blank cassettes. Of course, that was a present from Santa.
Anyway,
absolutely.
So I come back.
Yeah. Anyway, we're really showing our age here, aren't we? Oh my God. So anyway, Echo Belly. Yeah, they played at the QM Union, the Queen Margaret Union, Glasgow Uni. And that was September 94. So quite early days. And then it just blew me away. And they were kind of my band. And part of the reason was because I was on my own, really. I didn't really know anyone in Glasgow, and kind of they were a bit of a comfort, really. And I'm sure lots of people, lots of kids when they went to university for the first time, as he wipes away a tear, but did find a little bit of solace in music and the radio, and obviously pre-internet, and then starting to go to gigs. You find a tribe. You've got a ready-made tribe there, and we've talked about this on the pod before, about there being, you go to a gig and there's a ready-made tribe for you. You don't know anyone, but you've got something in common in that you're facing the stage and seeing, all experiencing the same thing. So yes, I went straight out to it's called De Courcy's Arcade in Glasgow, just off Byres Road, where I used to buy all my gig tickets, and bought my first gig ticket on my own. And it was Echo Belly at the garage the following month. So it was, I think it'll be 27 years next week that I saw them. I know, God, that's a kick in the stones, that one, isn't it?
It is.
But yeah, I saw them a few times, but the most recent time was at the Academy when they were doing one of these. I think it was Star Shaped.
A few of the bands on, a few indie bands on. But this was the Deaf Institute, wasn't it?
Yeah, and as I mentioned on the previous episode, I hadn't even been there, but I certainly hadn't photographed there. And
isn't it fantastically unique?
Yeah, it's great.
That's not a backhanded compliment. It's like no other venue. It's fabulous.
No, great wallpaper behind the stage, and just really intimate. And then I looked around and realized
it's like 20 foot tall.
Yeah, it was quite tall, quite high.
Yeah.
And then kind of raked seating at the back, which was a surprise. So yeah. And
then in the balcony, and he's there for every single gig at the Deaf Institute, was Morrissey.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I didn't find out. I saw somebody up there, but I couldn't make out who it was. But we found out afterwards that Stephen Patrick was there,
which is hilarious because that night around the corner in the Albert Hall, the Blossoms were playing the songs of the Smiths with Rick Astley.
Yeah. So I don't know what that means. Was he just being a little bit mischievous and going, I'll give a headline to compete with that?
Was he trolling the people of Manchester? Yeah. So I want to know if Morrissey just was secretly, I can't remember the name of the street that the Albert Hall's on in Manchester, but I wonder if he just walked up and down there all day.
Yeah, I think it's Key Street. I think is it Key Street?
In case people saw him, oh my gosh, he's here. It's not. Rick Astley actually means it's an anagram for Morrissey.
Yeah. Did you see any of the footage of the gig though?
I did, yeah, and I don't know what I think.
All right,
I think
that's useful.
I think
on a podcast.
Yeah, I know.
See, but I love his voice. I love Rick Astley's voice. And I love Blossoms, and I think the two and I love the Smiths, and the three of them together create something new, and I actually like it. I don't think,
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, just no, I do. I think I would go and see that. I'd go and see them live again. I think so.
For me, it's harmless fun.
There you go.
All I want to know is, what is that flipping backstory? Johnny Marr teasing a lot of us, saying, yeah, no, I'm totally fine with it, but there's a backstory. He said that, and then he didn't tell us what the backstory is. So what is it? Was Rick Astley supposed to be the original lead singer of the Smiths? Was Rick Astley the reason the Smiths broke up because he got off with Johnny Marr
I
or
think the
something? I don't
Smiths
know.
had split up by the time. I mean, Rick Astley was still making tea for Pete Waterman at the time that the Smiths broke up.
Is Rick Astley Morrissey?
Well, maybe we'll never know.
Have you? Oh, let's move on. I'll go
Well,
on.
you've not seen them in the same room at the same time.
Just gonna
But
say
you have
that.
seen them in the same city at the same time. Wow.
Anyway, good on you, Rick Astley. And he's a lovely guy. He's a lovely guy. Yeah. So on to this episode. And this is another wonderful blast from the past. And from a band that I was fortunate enough to see just a couple of years ago at Tim Peake's Kendall Calling.
Oh, yeah. We mentioned that, don't we?
Yes. They were performing. What a fab gig, and what loads of fun. I think I throw our guest, Manda Rin, lead singer, lots of compliments in this episode. And I meant them all because they were totally unique, I don't even know who I would compare them to now, back then. And they just came, they came from wherever they came from. And it was like, who are these? And it was just genuinely fun. I saw them a few times and it was a laugh. And I think people think that that's rude of me to say, or is not a compliment, but it is, because there was a lot of indie schmindy taking themselves seriously and lots of foppishness. And then Biss came along with this sort of space pop rock, and it was just like about laughing and pogoing around, and it was great. And Manda Rin, as you will soon hear, is a fantastic guest, and is a fantastic person. It was really interesting talking to her and finding out that she's very much, in certain ways, like you and I, she's a fangirl. We're fanboys, and she's actually a fangirl, and that's how it started for the music.
Yeah, and she still is as well.
That is hilarious to me as well, that she is still a fangirl and goes to stage door to give CDs and cassettes of her music. That is, and I'm not going to say who, because that'll spoil it in the interview. And she just loved her music and loved her live gigs and was like, yeah, I want to be in a band. So taught herself, to play something and got in a band.
I mean, we'll mention it. We mention it in the podcast, but I saw her at Tea in the Park in 95, 96. That was a cracker, but we do talk about that, so I'm not going to say any more about that.
We're going to shut up and please welcome today's guest, it's Manda Rin. Hello and welcome indeed to this episode of the Gig Stories podcast. And this is very exciting. Today's guest is DJ, artist, singer, keyboardist, player type thing. And you will know her from Biss, The Kitchen, and also her solo work. You might know her from Wee Badgers and being the owner of Two Child Pests. It is, it is Manda Rin. Manda Rin, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. The pests are out the room, so I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be taking part in a podcast like this about gigs and live music, when at the moment everything's a bit chaotic and people don't know what the hell they're doing. So it's nice timing actually to be doing this.
I think maybe it was easier about a year ago when we knew nothing is going to happen at all.
Maybe.
It's like, the boot has come down, nothing's happening. Now, it feels like it's kind of getting back to, no. So
No, it's a pleasure to have you on, and it's a nice reminder. Although I saw you a couple of years ago, you and the boys played Tim Peake's Diner at Kendall Calling, and that was just fantastic. But also it's a nice blast from the past, because I was lucky enough to see you quite a few times back when we were all much younger. You mentioned recent times, and it was great to see you in 2019. Dare I ask what's going on?
Since those days, we had a kind of hiatus, and we started a different band, Data Panic, which was still the three of us. We just started something different for a break with a bassist and a drummer to try it out. And then we went back to doing Biss again, which made so much more sense. And there's a Glasgow label that offered to put out a new album for us, which we did, 2 years ago now. And we were really happy with it actually, because it was just like, it was like classic Bis, but current. So in a way it was kind of perfect, and it was good for the fans that's hung around for us, but also good for people who didn't even know who we were, and they were like, whoa, who are you? So in a way it was kind of perfect. And now we're working on another one. So that's where we are, and we have some gigs kind of penciled in for next year, but as you know, things are all kind of up in the air anyway. So
And are you looking at Scotland gigs to begin with, or you're going to venture? You're going to get yourselves a passport and come down to England? And...
Yeah, the usual thing we do is our classic three gig trips every year, sometimes twice a year. It kind of works out the best with having kids and school and stuff. It's just these wee 3-day trips. So we usually do a like Manchester, Nottingham, London, and then a Glasgow one. So we something kind of like that we'll end up doing, I think.
You mentioned the new album.
Mm-hmm.
When did that start?
The one that's been out already.
You said that you were just working on that second album that's been out. Was that before lockdown, or was that
Yeah,
during?
so the album that we released with the label called Last Night from Glasgow was called Slight Disconnects. And then they said they want to put a new one out, and that's what we'd been working on. And we've got about 20 kind of working songs that we're just kind of going through and trying to expand upon. But we've not, the three of us haven't been in the same room for 2 years. So when I see John and Stephen at the wedding on Saturday, that'll be the first time we'll all have been in the same room.
So that is a lockdown album.
Well, no, it didn't. Well, it's not been recorded though. It's just one that's kind of been chatted about and been worked on. But no, we've not recorded it yet. So I wouldn't officially call it a lockdown album yet. We could still be in lockdown by the time it comes out. You never know.
So, Amanda, we're going to take you back in time, going to get in the time machine, and just about when you were growing up, what was the household like in terms of music? What would we have heard when you were growing up, and what kind of influenced you?
So, early days, I suppose, just getting into alternative music when I was at school. I was loving all the Manchester bands. I was very, very into that. I loved Spiral Carpets and Happy Mondays and Curve and Lush and all that, all the kind of classic NME bands of that era.
How did you get into that? Because often I find that people have a story. So I got into exactly those bands because of my older sister's boyfriend who lived in Manchester, and he would travel to Cardiff to see my sister, and he would have this compilation tape. And he had all those bands that you named. He had the Mondays, the Lightning Seeds, and Spiral Carpets, the Charlatans. Who was your influence, or where did you get those? Where did you get those sort of bands and songs from?
Probably MTV and like Alternative Nation and 120 Minutes that I've been watching all the time. And I came across so many bands I'd never heard of before, and I was absolutely loving it. So then I would then relate that to the NME and say, oh, I know who that is. And this is just in my early teens. So it was exciting. So I obviously couldn't go to gigs. That was kind of unheard of when I was still living with my parents pretty much. But no, it was great. Because I remember bands like Daisy Chainsaw coming on 120 Minutes. And that was brilliant.
When they I love, 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 love all your money.
Yep, that's the one.
Oh yeah, Daisy Chainsaw. Well, let's just go a bit further back. What was it? Were you from a musical household? Were your parents very much into music? Is that where you got your love of music from, or did you sort of find it yourself?
My dad liked music. Like, they had a turntable and lots of 7-inches, and I remember just going through them all. And I remember the Smiths one. That's probably the only one that was kind of credible in his record collection.
Dad?
Yeah.
What? Like with Glenn Miller, Lonnie Donegan, and
Doctor Hook. How did your dad manage to have the Smiths? That's far
But that's I'm saying that's the only one out of a big box of really, really like Hazel Dean and all these other ones that he had. That's actually the only decent one. So yeah, that was quite cool. And then I'll just go to like Woolworths and go to the 7-inch rack to see whatever I could see. And I remember getting when CDs were quite new coming out.
Yeah.
I remember going to Woolworths and I got a curve one, and it was really cool just to have something completely different for a change, because it was just usually always 7 inches.
Yeah, I remember when CDs first started to take hold, and it was I was really I was a CD skeptic. I was like, this will never last. What you mean? These are going to take the place of cassettes? Never.
Can you remember seeing and hearing, I know this is a really random memory, your first CD? And this is for both of you, because you had Whitney Houston, the album, what would have been her first album, I believe.
It's a
And I
great
remember
album.
him showing us this CD and me thinking, what is this? What is this? But playing it and me thinking, oh my gosh, the sound is incredible.
It's like she's here.
Cool though in a way, because it was very flimsy compared to like a nice thick record. And so, but I think it was just that curve one. It was the first one that I got, I think.
Oh man, that's too cool. That's far too cool. I think mine was Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation, I think. Or it might have been the Jackson 5, the best of the Jackson 5, which isn't bad.
Well, I actually heard some Janet Jackson earlier on today, and I was thinking her late 80s stuff was knockout. It was really kind of, it was quite weird. Do you know what I mean? In terms of how the song was written and arranged, and it was quite, you know, it was really different. Sorry, I'm going on a complete tangent, but
in fact, come on, Manda Rin, you must have who were your first favorite sort of music artist, or did you somehow just jump and start listening straight into the indie? Like,
it wasn't cool. No, it wasn't cool stuff to begin with at all. No, I was a massive like Kylie and Jason fan. My bedroom walls were all Kylie and Jason. That was big time. Then went into wee New Kids in the Block phase, and then I can't remember what kind of was the transfer from that to alternative music though. I'm not really sure what it was, but I think the first kind of alternative stuff was the bands I was telling you about, the Manchester ones, and then I became a massive Jesus Jones fan in a big way early 90s, and was quite obsessed with them actually. One of my biggest claims to fame was buying Mike Edwards a hat, like a skateboarding hat that I wanted to give him when he played in Glasgow, and he wore it on MTV.
No way.
I couldn't believe it. Like, It was utterly stunned. My dad shouted me down the stair and he was like, look, and he was wearing it. So that was a big moment in my musical history.
Well, that's like the circle of life. You know, you kind of, getting into these bands by MTV and then giving Mike the hat, and you see it. I mean, it is the circle of life. Brilliant.
I specifically remember buying International Bright Young Thing and The Farms all together now. I bought those on cassette single on the same day.
Wow.
And it was on my way to a school rehearsal for a play, and I'd pinched my sister's Walkman. And I'd saved pocket money, and I had enough money, and I believe they were 99 pence each, and they were sleeves. Do you remember they were cardboard sleeves?
Yeah, I remember that.
I had International Bright Young Thing and The Farm all together. Jesus Jones, that album, that debut album was a belter.
Oh, Liquidizer.
Yeah.
Oh, I had everything. I loved them so much, and the fact that they're still doing stuff is just amazing. And I think I'd love to go and see them again, actually.
Well, a couple of episodes back was we interviewed James Atkin from EMF, and we were talking about Jesus Jones and that whole kind of, we hesitated to call it a movement, but the likes of Jesus Jones and EMF, and Pop Elite itself, and But yeah, it did feel there was a real sound. Flowered Up, I suppose, was similar. It was that kind of that mix between the indie grungy guitar sound with electronic and that kind of movement. But yeah, it was Jesus Jones were right at the forefront of that as well, certainly in Britain anyway.
Because I think that was one of my first gigs, actually. I think, was it 91 that Jesus Jones supported In Excess
What?
at the SECC in Glasgow. Now, I was only, oh God, what age would I have been? About 14 maybe or something. And I just, my dad queued up with me just to let me go in the door on my own. So I was just on my own at that age, but God, it was just so amazing to.
Whoa, hang on. I've got a couple of things here for you, Manda Rin. Your dad let you go to that gig on your own?
I'm quite amazed, actually. Yeah. he saw me in the door and he got me out the door at the end, but yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but he had a Smith single though, so you know, I probably.
He also had Status Quo and everything else, so he wasn't that cool.
That was my first ever single, I have to say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Margarita Time, Status Quo.
That was the one, yeah.
First 7-inch
like a Margarita glass in the front of the 7-inch, didn't it?
Yeah, but did either of you have to go with your mum to the Status Quo concert tour every December that they would do? No.
Oh, did you?
Oh, this one here.
Mate.
And did you know that there's certain songs the Status Quo fans have choreographed dance moves to?
Oh, I'm guessing it's probably like line dancing.
Going around. Oh yeah, I was just like, what is happening here? But anyway, back to what you said is one of your first gigs, and we're going to ask you exactly if you can remember what your first gig was. Jesus Jones, fantastic. You saw In Excess with Michael Hutchence.
Yeah, but you know that didn't even mean anything to me at the time because I was just Jesus Jones.
No.
I've got photos that I took of him on stage. He had this black and white big stripy suit on, which I think I've seen photos of it around. So yeah, it was quite cool, you know, later on just to say, oh wow, I have actually seen them. I was just more excited. I saw Ian, the keyboard player from Jesus Jones, was out in the big kind of foyer bit, and I went and got an autograph, which I still have to this day. So I was more excited.
Still got it? You've still got that autograph?
Yeah, I took a photo of it and put it on Facebook and tagged him in it, and he liked it. So that was good. I'm a big fan girl of everything. I like it.
So I'm guessing you do hang on to all your stuff, all your.
Oh God, I do. Yeah, it drives a lot of people crazy, but a lot of the Beast fans really love it when I come out with all this weird stuff. I'm like, look what I found.
Yeah, I love that. Can you remember then? And you know what? You've totally mentioned something that I'd written a question about, because I'd written, and I don't like just to try and push or force in questions that I've prepared, but I just had an idea because of how you were as a band and because of the fans you had. Like one of my very best friends who got me into this, Gary. It was you had a specific fan, and it seemed like all of them were really hardcore, and it was the audience was just full of fanboys and fangirls. And I actually wanted to ask you what kind of fan you were, and you've actually you've answered it just through talking about Jesus Jones, and I love that. You were obviously really passionate about your bands at a really young age then.
Oh, very much. So it was so me and my best friend Leanna, we went on the hunt trying to find where Jesus Jones would be staying when we're coming to Glasgow for that tour. And we were actually going into hotels and pretending that we were from a newspaper to see if we could get them to answer if they were staying in that hotel or not. And then I remembered a Happy Mondays video that I had that talked about sound checks, and that bands did a thing called sound checks. So we thought, let's go to the Barrowlands and see if we can see them sound checking, because we're not getting anywhere with this hotel thing. And they were there, and there's do you remember the band Sunscream? They were supporting Jesus Jones. So they were having their dinner in the kind of foyer part, and we went in and I said I had a present for them, and it was so scary, but that was exciting. And then they gave us a pass to say if you want to come backstage afterwards, which is very exciting for, we were then 15 years old, which is a wee bit dodgy-ish, but it It was good.
I love that. So can you remember what was your first gig?
The first, I don't even know if I call it a gig, first thing I went to,
Yeah.
it was with my mum, and then my best friend Leanna with her mum was in Edinburgh. There was the Stock Aitken and Waterman tour.
Oh my gosh, that is a banger.
And it was Big Fun, Sonia, and I can't remember who the other bands were, but it was the Edinburgh Playhouse.
I'm
So that's
going to
the-
say that's solidly 1989.
Oof, okay. That sounds that's probably kind of right, yeah.
Yeah, it's sounding, if you were going to say Carrie and Jason, I might have said 1988, but you chucked in Big Fun there. And
Yeah, do you know what? I think you've nailed that, Chris.
I'm gonna fact check this.
That is so funny. What do you remember? What do you remember of that concert?
A lot of screaming. There was just lots of people just screaming and screaming. And then Jason from Big Fun's mum was in the row in front of us, which we found quite exciting because we'd never known someone that's semi-famous' family before. So that's my first experience of that kind of thing.
And that was Edinburgh Playhouse, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Is it what kind of venue is that? How big is that?
It's like a kind of theatre-y kind of place.
So it's an old theatre, sort of proscenium arch stage kind of thing, is it?
Yeah, it's a proper kind of.
It's kind of
place,
Palace,
yeah.
like the Palace Theatre in
in Manchester.
So I've seen a couple of things there, but I've never seen a band there. I went to see Cats there with my parents. Cats, Cats.
Oh,
Cats! You saw Cats?
No, not Cats.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure which is worse. Oh no!
And
I think I might edit that one out.
Yeah, let's take that one out. And the other one was, what's the other one? Sean Hughes. I went to see Sean Hughes.
Oh no way!
Yeah. But no, I've never seen a band there. And so, when did music as a performer kind of creep in? Were you playing music at school? What was the deal? What were you?
Yeah, I didn't play anything at school. I was always into the idea of it because my dad had a keyboard and just kind of played by ear, so I would muck about on that, but I never did anything else. And then I got to know that two boys, John and Stephen, were in a band in my high school, and I really fancied Stephen like so much. And in my usual obsessed with music fans kind of thing, we found out where they lived, and they invited us into their house to hear them playing some music, and we couldn't actually believe we're so excited that we'd been invited to these two guys in a band from the school, especially because one of them is the guy that I fancied. It was so cool. So then I ended up dating Stephen, and then the band happened. So it was pretty cool because I got invited along to their rehearsals, and they wanted to expand because it's just the two of them that were in the band, so it wasn't a very full-on sound. So they asked if I wanted to play the keyboards that Stephen had been playing at that point, and if I did that, then it meant they could have a second guitarist. So that's where it all stemmed from.
So are you telling me that you learned to play keyboards just to be in the band?
Well, kind of. As I said, I'd been kind of mucking about when I lived at my parents', just because my dad had a keyboard. So I'd always been into the idea. And although that I can't play it properly, I can memorize stuff and play by ear. So.
And is that how you learned?
Yeah.
So for the best that you just played by ear and literally just learnt it like that, and that's how you would play each song?
Yeah, I'm a cheat. I'm not very good at it, so I just remember.
That's incredible.
It's not really. It's embarrassing.
That is amazing. I don't know if that's daft or if that is like the most talented thing ever. Yeah, I'll be in your band. Yeah, okay, I'll just learn this, and there we go.
Well, Paul McCartney can't read music. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, that's my go-to. I mean, he's done other stuff in his life. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's straight up. He doesn't write things down. He doesn't any of that. He doesn't really read music.
John and Stephen's mum's a piano teacher, and she offered to to show me some stuff, and I was actually doing really, really well with it, where I was reading music and playing with two hands. And then I just completely lost it and don't remember anything that she showed me apart from what the letters of the keys are. That's it. So it worked though, because John Stephen just needed an extra pair of hands in the band. And I didn't sing when I first started with them.
Yeah.
And even doing gigs, all I did was play keyboards. That was it. And then I decided I wrote my own wee song that I thought was just for fun, and I did it on a bass, which I don't even play bass, and that ended up being the first 7-inch that we put out. So I got really excited that it was my silly song idea that got the first record. So
remind me which track that was.
That was Kill Your Boyfriend.
And you wrote that on a bass?
Which was
quite
weird.
That you don't play. That is amazing. What was the boys sound like when you joined them?
They're really, really good. See, they're both proper musicians, like very, very good, scarily good at times. But when I listened to their tapes that I bought a demo tape for £2 off them at school. It's got a kind of baggy sound to it, because again, they were into all the Manchester stuff. So it's quite strange that it's a bit like that. I'd say the biggest thing to compare it to would be more like New Order or maybe Adam and the Ants. It was a bit more like that, I suppose, which is always good. Right. But I love listening to it though.
The thing I really loved and genuinely admired about the three of you was the sound. Was your sound actually, was your look, your aesthetic, your sound, and where you came within, music history and what was going on at the time. You absolutely stood out. You were there on your own. I'm not even sure if pushed I could think of anyone else that I would sort of put in your genre. And I know there was lots of things thrown around, disco pop, and this, by the way, is a massive compliment, because I think it takes something, doesn't it, to be able to do something different when the rest of the world is going Britpop crazy or whatever. Was that a conscious decision, or was that from the three of you, the influences that your own personal music influences and what you were bringing?
Yeah, I think it is just that, because the three of us do like quite different stuff. Me and Stephen like maybe more similar stuff than John, but John has always been into kind of XTC, Gary Newman, two-tone stuff. He brought all that to the mix.
Oh, really?
And that mixed with me getting into all the Riot Girl bands, it just, you come up with something really quite odd. I think we are a very odd band, and the only other odd bands I can think of are the people we were compared to, like B-52s and Devo and stuff. And that's good comparisons, actually, because it's bands that we hadn't even heard of at the time.
Yeah, I'd not heard that before, but that makes absolute sense. Certainly, Devo, absolutely, with that kind of little touch of chaos going on. You know what I mean? I love Devo. Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense.
I've been playing a game in my head here, thinking, okay, I've got to think of someone, and I'm not sure I can, because it was so. It was so different. Can you remember Clinic? Either of you?
Yeah, they weren't around long enough, were they?
No. Oh, do you know, you are absolutely right. What a perfect way to sum them up. They weren't around long enough. But not even them, because you were that sort of that disco pop, and I think that's what the indie kids really, really loved about you. Because all of a sudden, in the indie club, there was just two of them that I go to in Cardiff. There was something different that wasn't the Britpop, or was, I don't know, when they'd have your half hour, which included 9 Inch Nails and Nirvana and Beastie Boys. You did bring that something. You bought glitter. That's what you bought. You bought a real sparkly smile, which just wasn't supposed to be cool. Was it, with the indie alternative kids? You weren't supposed to smile, it was supposed to be have attitude. So it was it was fantastic. Can you remember your first gig as
Yeah,
Biss?
it was it was called the 13th Note, which is at a different venue now, but because that was the time where I didn't sing with the band and I was incredibly shy, like really, really shy, that I just set up my keyboard behind a big pillar so that they couldn't really see me.
Was it the club downstairs?
It was, yeah. It was.
Yeah.
But I think for that one it might have been up the stairs because it was gigs up and down, which we did both. And I'm not sure if that was an upstairs or a downstairs one, but yeah, it was one of them.
That was a good venue. That it was quite an odd one to play. I played it with a band that I was in '97, something like that. And yeah, it was quite odd because people could hide around the corner and chat. We played one gig there where we were on as there was like a kind of it was a cabaret. So Michael Redmond, do you know Michael Redmond?
Name sounds
comedian.
familiar, yeah.
He was in Father Ted. He was the grumpy
old.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. So he lives in Glasgow, but he did a stand-up set and we played after him, I think. And
what?
yeah, but it was like a comedian, and then there was us, and then there was I don't know, I can't remember what else, but but people, because it was so weirdly set out, you had these pillars and then places around the corner. You had people around the corner who were just chatting because they couldn't see what was going on. So he was trying to chat over. He was trying to do his performance over the sound of these people just chatting and catching up. It was really odd. I mean, as a band, it was fine because you just drowned everyone out. But yeah, it was quite an odd one. It's a good venue though. Is it still there?
So the 13th Note moved to a different venue, which is now opposite where Mono is. It's a better place, I suppose, but the place it turned into is called Bacchus now, and I think that's still called that. But yeah, it was a good one to do if you're but I wasn't even 18, like we weren't even meant to be in there. In fact, the three of us none of us were 18, because
amazing.
In fact, John would only have been 15. John was 15, I was 16, and Stephen was 17, so young.
Wow.
So what year would that have
That
been?
would be 93 going to 94, yeah. It'd be 93 into 94 when we got together as the band, but for doing a gig, I would guess maybe more 94, 95, probably.
94, 95.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a feeling it would have been maybe 96 that I would have seen you in Cardiff.
We're narrowing it down, Alex.
Yeah,
we're getting there, man.
I'm getting there. So when did you start? Did you enjoy that first gig or first gigs, or did it? You know, were you a shy performer, or were you straight away? Oh yeah, this is what I was born to do.
I was so shy. Like so stupidly shy, and didn't drink, so that had nothing to kind of make it a little bit easier on me. So I was so nervous, like really, really nervous. But the two of them don't get nervous a tiny, not in the slightest, not a tiny bit. So when you're on your own feeling like that, you feel like you've got no choice but to just kind of get on and do it. And in a way, it does kind of help you where you're not really getting sympathy for it. You're just kind of like, on you go. So it did help. I think they really did help me get better with it, because when people at my school heard that we were on Top of the Pops, they're like, what? Her? Like, there's no way. She's
really
so stupidly shy. Yeah. I remember the janitor at my primary school thought there was maybe issues at my house because I was so kind of shy and funny. Like, quite weird. So
because was your first appearance on Top of the Pops, was that with Candy Pop?
The two appearances were both Candy Pop. The first one was as an exclusive, and then the second one was when it charted. Yeah,
I was wanting to ask you about that because I watched it today, and
oh, did you?
I loved Top of the Pops so much. And one of the things that I loved most was the fact that it was all based on who was doing well in the charts or who was thought to be on the potential, on the brink of doing well in the charts. And so you'd have all these massively different kinds of bands on, just thrown together. I was just wondering who else was on that episode of Top of the Pops when you were
sometimes
there?
Get mixed up between the two episodes, but I think it was the MN8 who were introducing us, and Gina G, she was on it.
Gina G.
Gary Newman.
Gary Newman. Oh, so didn't you say one of the boys loved Gary Newman?
John was a big, and this is before we toured with Gary Newman, so that would have been quite exciting. Cast, they were on it. Take That were at #1, but theirs was just a pre-record thingy, so their names were hanging up in the wardrobe for their suits, but they weren't there. It's from a previous time they'd been to record.
So that was early 95, is it?
March
94.
March 96, I think it would be.
96.
Yeah,
right.
I just passed my driving test on the 20th of March, so it was just after that.
Amazing. I'm sure I remember that performance, and I remember the haircut. I'm going to sound like a freaky stalker. Were you wearing a silver dress?
No, the dress was blue with wee hippos on it.
Oh.
And the second appearance was a pink dress.
Oh, I'm sort of actually glad, because if you'd said yes, then I would have sounded like
I did have a silvery dress that I did wear for gigs though, so maybe you're thinking.
Oh, maybe that's when I saw you. There was a very fun, confident female vocalist in front of me. So are you saying that was a lot of effort for you to put on? And not an act. I don't want to say that, but you're telling me you were so nervous and shy. Mm-hmm. Was it? Did you have to work at putting that? Because from my point of view, in the audience, you were like super confident, fun. So was that a hard thing?
It's lovely to hear you say that, because I never thought for a second that I came across like that. I always thought I looked uneasy, and it's maybe that when you do shouty kind of songs that you kind of get the release of that, the nerves, I suppose. But I suppose it's when you get the nice response from the fans and they're really loving it, it spurs you on and it makes you want to do better.
Do you think it helped that you had the keyboard in front of you? I mean, as a sax player, I found that even though the sax is not massive, it still felt like it was protection, as if the audience was going to attack me. But you know what I mean? You just feel like there's a buffer in between you and them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was perfect because it's right at like tummy height and you just feel a wee bit hidden. And then if you've seen us live, we sometimes swap positions on the stage.
Yeah.
And when I go to the centre, I feel so exposed, and I just can't wait to get back behind my keyboard again.
Do you know what? I think I'm more shocked about this than with any other sort of musician guest that I've seen, because genuinely, I never saw that. And
really?
all I saw was sort of, I would have said disco pop Riot Girl, because it wasn't sort of Riot Girl in the traditional sense, because you just had that slightly more glittery disco-y edge, which was fun. And so you always just seemed like, yeah, you were having fun. And that not once did it cross my mind that you were painfully shy and that might have been difficult for you as a performer. So I mean, take that as it comes. But I mean, you know, I genuinely mean that they were great. They were just fun, really fun gigs.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Oh, but then when all the criticism started and people were being really, really rude and nasty and throwing things, that's when it does get a bit weirder and you do get a bit moodier perhaps. But there's also so many nice fans that you have to always play to them.
How did you cope with that?
It's not nice at all, but there's nothing you can do. Like when I had, you know, a pint of beer thrown at me on stage in Wales, actually, I went out, I was mad, I went out going, like, looking for the person. And there's several times like that I've been furious, but you don't want to ruin the gig or storm off stage, because that's ruining it for all the cool kids that are there.
You remember that was Wales? Do you remember where it was?
Well, at Newquay.
Really? What was it? Your gig, or was it a festival gig? What's the what? Supporting the Foo Fighters.
Because we toured Europe with them.
Right.
I don't think I remember. In fact, no, I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I do not
Oh.
remember that you supported the Foo Fighters.
Oh, they're so nice. They're so nice. I just watched that Nirvana documentary last night, and just seeing Dave Grohl, he is just that nice guy. He walked into our dressing room and gave us Kinder Eggs. He's that nice.
Oh, well, I watched the one that was after that, the Dermot O'Leary one where he showed Dave Grohl loads of videos, or was that the Nirvana one?
No, there was a new Nirvana documentary. It was Nirvana in Britain.
Okay, well, this one was, I think it was the same night, and it was Dermot O'Leary. He was sitting in an empty cinema, and Dave Grohl was on the other end of a phone line, well, on a Zoom call, basically.
Yes.
And they were looking at videos, and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely lovely. And he just seemed like them. And if you put that documentary alongside the YouTube video of the young drummer, what's her name? She's about 10.
Oh yeah, they just played with the Foo Fighters.
Is she called Sandy?
Something like that. Yeah,
I can't remember. But anyway, just my heart was bursting out of my chest at the end of it. So yeah, so it's not a front. They're just lovely fellas. Yeah.
Really love it. You should get him on this. It's the kind of podcast he'd probably really like.
Yeah, well,
we should get Dave Grohl on this.
Dave, there's a cue.
I said
when I was on CBeebies, and I know they're still doing it now. The one person that we were trying so hard to get to do bedtime stories was Dave Grohl.
Oh God!
In fact, Ben, who's the presenter, Ben, he actually replaced me. He's a massive Foo Fighters fan, and he is still. And I see him occasionally tweet Dave, please do the bedtime story, because they've had Josh Homme, which is just bonkers, and so I'm like, come on, Dave Grohl. Oh, so that warms my cockles, because a lot of people. It seems it's quite cool to not like the Foo Fighters because they are middle of the road rock. But I just
tell me who they are, and I will fight them.
Oh, there's lots of them. There's lots of them. But the Foo Fighters, and I do think there's something linked to Nirvana, because the three of us, that's our age, and I was left sadly with a Nirvana ticket. They would have been playing Cardiff International Arena or the ice rink 2 weeks after he sadly lost his life to suicide. And so I think it meant something to us. I think it meant more. And so when Dave came back with the Foo Fighters, I saw the Foo Fighters supporting the Prodigy. Now that is one of the greatest gigs of all time.
A good gig.
It was honestly immense. So wowzers. You've hung out with. Do you have any other Dave Grohl anecdotes that you just want to share with us before we move on?
I can't think of any. He's just so nice.
Are you still in contact with him? Does he want my children?
Do you know, I'm not even in contact with him anymore, which is a shame, because he's such a good guy. Oh, but there is a wee story. What was it? Was it the Prodigy tour? Yeah, it was the tour with them and the Prodigy, and Stephen from the band was at the side of the stage, and he turned to he said to the crowd, this was for Stephen, and was praising the band with Stephen just at the side of it. So that was a cool one.
Wow.
I was just in the audience, so at that point I wasn't at the side of the stage, which is unlike me. You
were at the Foo Fighters Prodigy gig.
Mm-hmm.
So can you back me up on this, that the Prodigy, and I've said this for forever and a day, the Prodigy are and always will be one of the greatest live acts ever.
They're bloody good. They were our kind of semi-label mates, because they were on XL with Beggars Banquet, and so Ouija was with Beggars Banquet as well. So I got their autographs, not like it wasn't me that went to get them, I get given them, so that was quite cool. I like pop star stuff.
I love that. Do you have fond memories of yourself and the boys, up and down the country, gigging? Were you in a car, a van? What were you in, the three of you?
So in the very beginning, it was just a car with just the three of us, and Stephen drove, and then we upgraded to a wee tiny shitty van.
Upgraded to a wee tiny shitty van.
Oh, it was terrible. But that's what we did the Super Furries tour in. It was this wee shitty van going to travel lodges. Well, they had a nice kind of sprinter or a splitter van. So that was kind of weird. And at the start of the Super Furries tour, this is when me and Stephen had split up, and it was not a good time for us personally. So we hated each other's guts. So that made it interesting as a band who's getting the biggest opportunity they could ever get of getting your first big tour, and then you get Top of the Pops, and then two of the bands are absolutely hating each other and fighting. So that's interesting when you're in a tiny wee band.
I can imagine, my God.
Yeah, we had some interesting times on tour with that.
And that literally did coincide with the trajectory going whoop.
It made the songs get angrier. It was good.
Bit of fire in your bellies. That's what you needed.
So
I'm actually quite amazed and quite proud that we got through that. It's just quite amazing that we're all at best of friends, and it's brilliant.
Well, no, absolutely.
And I'm just going to doff my cap to my fellow countrymen, the Super Furry Animals, one of the greatest bands ever.
Lovely.
It's just unbelievable. How do you describe them? It's crazy. If someone's never heard the Super Furry Animals, how do you describe them to someone? Not a clue. I love those boys.
They're from space.
They're brilliant. And that was a perfect pairing, by the way, Biss and Super Furries.
It was a good one, actually. It was really good. I love seeing the photos from that tour because they had a big massive backdrop with their logo on it, so that's in the background of us on stage at all these gigs that we did. So good memory.
Well, that's a good pairing. Sorry, I think we should crash on into the quickfire round. But
yes.
I'm going to ask one question, just leading on from what we just talked about. That was a great pairing, Super Furry Animals and Biss. And so I love when bands get paired with bands because maybe they're stable mates, they're label mates, but they don't really make sense together. Or or Biss who follow or are followed by a band which is completely weird. So have you got any examples of, it sounds like a job interview, can you tell me when you were in a position where you were followed by a band, or you had a band before you that were kind of completely off the wall and you couldn't work out why they were there?
We've toured with so many bands it doesn't really make sense, but that's the thing with us sounding the way we do. You can kind of put us with a lot of different bands, whereas not a lot of people could do that. Because in the beginning we get put with people like Yola Tango and then Super Furries, but then we did Foo Fighters, we did an Ash tour, we did the Cardigans, we did Gary Newman, we did Sleater Kinney.
Wow.
And then there's odd ones like we did a couple with Sebadoh and Pavement in America and Royal Trucks. So there's a lot of weird ones, but those bands couldn't all play together, whereas Biss can kind of connect the dots, I suppose. It's quite strange.
Yeah.
How was Pavement in America?
Oh, that was actually quite good. It was quite good actually. They played really big venues that wanted to charge for selling t-shirts, and that's something I was so against and didn't want to put the prices up. And
they wanted to charge you to sell your merchandise.
Any band that so if, even like these days, if we were the support band and we were at the Badlands, they would charge us big commission to sell stuff, and these places wanted to do the same, which we just weren't big enough to do. So we were out the back door trying to sell it to fans out the back to avoid putting the prices up. So
yeah,
that's bonkers.
And what about festivals? I've got one in particular which I've actually written down.
What, a mismatched lineup? An interesting lineup. Okay,
yeah.
Come on, I'm interested to hear this.
Well, I'm just wondering if you can think of bands that were kind of memorable that followed you or you were before.
We played Tea in the Park one year, and we were just after Dogstar, Keanu Reeves' band.
Oh God!
That's quite an
no! Right for you listeners. Chris had written down Dog Star, and he'd not shown us, and he just revealed it.
Well, I was there. I saw that.
You were
Oh,
there?
you were
Yeah, I was
at
there.
the park.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's when I got my famous photo of me with Keanu Reeves. That's one that I show to people to this day. It's so cool. I'm quite obsessed with getting my photo with famous people.
That I've got something that's vaguely related to that, Manda Rin.
Okay.
You've got Keanu Reeves, and I've got his Bill and Ted partner. So please tell me you love the Bill and Ted
Ooh.
films.
I don't even know them that well, which is quite bad.
What? You said the Bill and Ted films?
No.
Oh, come on.
I have seen them, but I'm not as crazy. No.
So it was Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. And so because I've got the S on the end of my name, Alex Winters, he would sort of send me messages that he would receive from mums and dads of CBeebies, like CBeebies mums and dads.
Aww.
And he's in America, and he's like, what are these messages? Who is this? Who's this fella? And so he'd send these messages to me saying, I think these are for you. And so we got to know each other. And we met in Manchester 2 years ago when at a Lost Boys reunion. They got the Lost Boys film, the whole cast reunited. And let me just say, for a cult film, they have only ever, that cast, gotten together or reunited once. And that was 2 years ago in Manchester, England. How bizarre is that? Why did no one think to get them all together, including, what's his face, Mr. Saxophonist, who I have since, found out played live with Tina Turner and things for years. I just thought he was perhaps an actor dressed in leather just for that film. But anyway, I digress. So I've got a picture with Alex Winter, and you've got a picture with cool. Keanu Reeves.
Well, can you remember much about Dog Star? Because I don't think they were that bad, but I felt like the crowd were they not? I can't remember.
They were not good.
I don't remember them either.
I saw them the same summer in Glastonbury.
Yeah, I just remember the crowd were not the most forgiving. I remember basically everyone calling them dog shit, and it wasn't. I don't think that was fair. I didn't do that. But
it's a tough crowd, Tea in the Park, though, isn't it?
Tea in the Park is, yeah. I mean, if they love you, they will absolutely adore you. But
yeah.
But once again, he was another really nice guy, though.
Honestly, I can't think of any other Hollywood star I would rather meet than Keanu Reeves. I get the impression he's an absolute sweetheart and a talented musician and all that. I just think that the crowd, only because he was a Hollywood star, gave him a rough time. But I can't remember what the band was like.
So did you have time to chat to him then?
No, it was apart from getting my photo, nah, not really. Because we were going on straight after them, I didn't really get a lot of time. But I think he got a different toilet, which I was really envious of. There was a nice cubicle all made up, like it looked
just for Dog Star.
Yeah.
That's so funny. The Manic Street Preachers got absolutely hammered for that one year, didn't they? By
really?
Billy Bragg. Yeah, by Billy Bragg, which is funny. And
he just dug a hole and that was it. Keeping it real, Billy.
Exactly. So let's get into this quick fire round.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That's the longest segue into a quick fire round ever. The irony is not lost.
I had to ask.
Okay, so then here we go. Just some quick answers on these ones.
Okay.
And we always say this. Who is your favorite artist or musician to see live?
Blur.
Oh, Blur.
Their last gig I saw was one of the best I've ever seen. So yeah, Blur.
I wish they would get back together because I've never seen them live.
What?
Really?
No, never seen them live. I don't know if I drank too much of the. I drank too much of the Oasis Kool-Aid in 94 to 97 or 96, and then missed the boat with Blur. And now I would probably rather go and see Blur.
Oh my gosh, those tours were incredible.
I've seen Damon a few times, but what's your favourite venue?
Ooh, I've always been a big fan of King Tut's Wawa Hut in Glasgow. I suppose it's because you see all the new exciting stuff, like when Elastica came, and that's probably one of my first ever really good gigs there. And then when you're small, there's a seated bit that you can stand on top of and you can see better. So yeah, I'm a big fan of King Tut's. They've always had a lot of respect for Biss, and yeah, I don't know what it's like at the moment for them, but hopefully it'll all get back up and running again.
So sorry, can I just take you back there? Did you say at that venue, if you're short, what do you, because this is a problem that I face, that there's a place for you to stand on, or you can
if
get
you're small, you can
stand on?
suss these things out. There's just a row of like a row or a bench that just in front of the stage. But if you get in early enough, everyone kind of runs to get to these seats because you know that you can stand on them when the band comes on.
Yeah,
so
brilliant. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but my old band played King Tut's once, and I remember.
Wow.
Yeah, and we supported Pram.
I used to love Pram on Too Pure.
Yeah, we supported Pram, and but I remember that they had this thing where on the tills, if you bought a pint or bought a drink, they asked you what band you were coming to see, and they would put that in, and then at the end of the night, you would get a tiny percentage of the bar takings.
Seriously?
Yeah, I certainly we got that.
Familiar, actually.
Yeah, and I've never heard of it anywhere else, but I just love King Tut's for that. But you're right, they just had every. But I was looking through my old Glasgow uni because I moved to Glasgow in '94 to go to university, and I think it was early '95, I saw Marion headline at King Tut's. But the support was incredible. So they were supported by Pure Essence and Catatonia. And the ticket I think was £4. But to see those three bands in that tiny place, it was that's probably what made me love King Tut's was a combination of those two things. I adore the place. Love it.
I'm still yet to go to a gig there. I must though. Okay, on we go with a quick fire round. Most memorable gig that you've ever, and it can be as a performer or a punter, whichever.
Performer or a punter. Oh God. As a performer, we were booked to play Providence in America, and we turned up, and we were quite late to sound check, and there was actually a bunch of people in already. It was only about maybe 6 or 8 people, and we sound checked. We played about 4 songs or whatever, and they were all clapping after each thing we played. And then after we finished, they all left. Like they thought it was the gig. John had to run out and run after them to say, no, that's not the gig, come back. And we still talk about this to this day, but they honestly thought that was it.
So, my question is, how good were your sound checks, or how low were their expectations of you?
That's the thing, like in a sound check, you're always just like mucking about and talking and whatever. They must have thought we were the crappiest band ever.
Very, very interesting the way they're chatting and interacting with each other and not the audience.
Yeah,
I'm not very dressed up when I've just got out of a tour van and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard this one before. It's the one where they hit the snare solidly for a minute. I love that one. It's a cover, this one. 1, 2, 1.
Is that all right, Bob? Bob, can you hear my vocals okay?
Brilliant.
So memorable, yes.
No, I can imagine.
That is excellent. That is absolutely excellent. I love
that. What is this? So, what's the strangest thing a fan has done or has been? You must have some absolutely devoted fans.
You've got quite a lot of devoted fans. You probably heard the one already about the big fan who got tattoos. He's got our faces from the cover of Social Dancing on his arm.
Oh, of course, yes.
He's a big fan. There was also on that 96, Terry, you were talking about Super Furries, when we played at the Lead Mill in Sheffield, and a girl she'd made a dress for me out of just like she kind of laminated bits of magazines and stuff and put an actual dress together, which was stunning. I've got a photo of John wearing it actually, which is quite funny. But that was a nice one.
Did you ever wear
I don't
it?
even know if I attempted to get into it or not. I think I was maybe just too embarrassed, but it's something I'll never forget. That's
amazing.
a good present to be given.
Oh, that's
No
lovely.
one's ever made me a laminated dress.
I'll make you one.
Thanks,
you one.
mate.
That's
Thank
all
you.
right, mate.
What comes to mind when I ask you about your worst gig?
My worst gig? Probably that in Newport one with getting hit in the head with a pint and beer nipping my eyes. Just about that, really.
I'm not happy about that. I'd like to apologise.
I was going to say you need to apologise.
I should apologise on behalf of Newport. And that was Newport Leisure Centre, was it not?
It would have been,
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Is this the famous Newport Leisure Centre where a riot broke out because Ian Brown put
Yes.
what was it, a Swansea? Was it a Swansea top on?
No, he
or
put a card. Yeah,
yeah.
He put a Cardiff City shirt on, and all of a sudden, the crowd went absolutely bonkers.
All I'm saying is that the crowds at Newport Leisure Centre, you know, they've got previous. That's all I'm saying.
I've spent a lot of time going to Newport Leisure Centre, Manda Rin, going to gigs, and we would get on the train, go to Newport, go to the gig, and get straight back on the train and go back to Cardiff. And not much has changed. So,
last question in the quickfire round. So you sack off the other two members of BIS, and you can parachute into any other band. Which band would you parachute into?
Oh God. Ooh, I don't feel that I'm a good enough musician that I would want to ruin a good one.
No, forget that. You're not allowed to have any humility in this.
This humility is not welcome here.
Exactly.
I would like to parachute into Blur, I suppose. That'd be because it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
What else though?
Yeah, you'd get to play with Graham Coxon.
Oh, that would be good. I did have a photo with him from years ago and I can't find it anywhere. And I got all my Blur records signed when they played at the Plaza in Glasgow, which I've still got signed actually. And I gave them a BIS demo. This is before we've done a single thing. So
lovely.
You know,
this is another wee story.
He's a missed opportunity. So there are quite a few occasions where I just had missed opportunities where I really wanted to go and say hello to someone and ask them for a picture. But I was there as the bloke from CBeebies, and Graham Coxon was there with his daughter Pepper, I believe her name is, and I was dying. But I was just trying to play it cool and didn't want it to be weird. And I still regret that, because if I'd had gone up, I probably would have ended up being arrested. I'd have been hugging him, kissing him in the face, you know, all kinds. And it would have just been horrific. But, you know, Graham Coxon, that's a great one. Manda Rin and Blur.
And they played that Barrowlands gig recently. I brought the best of double CD for him and I just gave it to the security guy and said to give to Graham. And he sent me a tweet. There's a tweet to me thanking me for it, which is really cool. So I still get in there. I still do it.
I am. I love you. That is brilliant. I love you.
John and Stephen have just had enough of me. I just embarrass us.
Oh no, the fangirl stuff is great. I love it.
Yeah. Why not? Now we're coming towards the end, but our chat with you, I really want to know what your answer to this question is. You are curating your own festival.
Okay.
It's just a one-dayer, but there's only 4 slots. So you've got the opener. So who's opening the festival? Who's then sort of got the afternoon? And then the third one is like the support slot, and then your headliner. Who's opening Manda Rin's festival?
Well, a new band I'm really, really into at the moment is Wet Leg.
Yeah.
Really love it. I heard them on Six Music, and then I realised that everybody's talking about them, and they're playing Glasgow next month, and I'm going to see if I feel confident enough to go to a gig by that point. And so I'd have Wet Leg open it because they just signed to Domino, I believe. Yeah, very, very impressed.
Okay, nice. Wet Leg going to open. belter. So
Yeah.
it's afternoon. You know, who's coming on now? You've had Wet Leg. Who's coming on now?
It's a Glasgow band that I'm a big fan of, called Slime City. Played with this a few times, and we had them support us in London, and they're quite Devo-like and quite bits of this type bits to them as well. But yeah, I'd like them on it as well. They're very good, very very good live band.
I feel bad I don't know them, so I'm
No,
going to
no, no.
check them
It's
out.
if I wasn't from Glasgow, I might not have heard of them. So
Okay, Slime City. Okay, so it's tea. Everyone's had their tea, and they're gearing up for the rest of the evening. They've just been and paid £20 for their
Falafel.
falafel kebab. Who's really warming the crowd up now, ready for the headliner?
oh god, a band that I saw. Oh, this is a tough one. There's two bands I saw just before lockdown happened, and I'm trying to decide who should get it. One that I saw was Sink Ya Teeth. I saw they went to Manchester to actually see them, and they're amazing, really, really good band. But the other band I saw was We Are Not Devo, the Devo covers band, and they were fucking amazing. So I think I'd have to. I don't know. I'd have a tough toss up between those two bands. Maybe Sink Your Teeth because they're newer
Yes.
and more females in it. So
Correct answer.
maybe
I love the fact that the Devo tribute band is called We Are Not Devo. It
Yeah.
just kind of that's very Devo, you know.
And can I just point out as well that We Are Not Devo tribute band almost got the support slot in Manda Rin's festival, not Devo.
It's just because it was fresh in my mind, having just seen them, and they were so good.
And the
So
headliner
good.
are the Clone Roses.
It's actually weird for me to suggest a covers band as a festival thing, but if Devo 2.0 would be another option, though.
I like that. So Sinky Teeth, yeah, good. Oh, fantastic. Love Sinky Teeth. In fact, Chris and I, we saw them at Myth. Are you forgetting that?
We did.
Yeah. When you had been off working, and that was the band who were on when you sort of joined me halfway through after you'd been photographing, shooting.
I've got absolutely no recollection of this. Where were
Manda
we?
Rin, he'd had a couple of shandies.
Okay.
How dare you?
It's
The very idea.
So we've just had Sinky Teeth, and now it's the headline.
Unfortunately, Blur are busy.
Oh no! Don't say that.
No, so
Busy. They said no, can't be asked. Alex James is too busy making cheese. So who's headlining?
Oh, that's making it tough then. B52s did their final ever gig though, so I don't know if they would come back.
You can have whoever you want.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But maybe if we offered them good money, maybe they'd come back. Maybe I'll go for B52s.
B52s. I like that.
There we go. That wasn't as difficult. That's brilliant.
See, I'd have the Blossoms with Rick Astley, but you know.
Good answer.
And do you know what? Blur weren't busy. They're just really annoyed now because you've gone for the B52s. But anyway,
Blah. Actually, the cover band Blah. We're going to headline.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is a great festival lineup.
these are kind of quick anyway. Who do you really wish you could have seen live, but you didn't get the chance to?
Well, when we're talking about Nirvana, yeah, that would have been a good one.
Yeah.
I was probably just too young to be into them when they were doing proper gigs, so I'd say Nirvana then, yeah.
And who do you really want to see that you haven't seen yet? But you will.
Wet Leg. I've not seen them live yet.
Right. So we're going to put some videos up on, because each guest has their own page on our website. So we'll put a Spotify playlist up, but we'll put some videos as well of loads of the different bands that you've mentioned. So if Slime City have anything on YouTube,
I think
then we're going to smash them up as well. Brilliant.
But we do like to finish with a live recommendation. So we ask all our guests for a live recommendation. And now it started off as a live album, but it has morphed over the episodes. And it can be anything live. So it could be a live album. If you ever go to live album that you listen to, I mean, you mentioned In Excess earlier, and that In Excess Live Baby Live, I listened to that album over and over, and partly because when it kicks, when it can, you can hear the crowd, and I used to buzz off that because it was just, oh, you could feel the atmosphere through the headphones. So it could be a live album, or it could just be a live video or something that you love watching that, you know, is a go-to, a recommendation for us all to listen to.
I don't know if there's a specific one, but I'm sure if you looked, I would always watch Beastie Boys live videos. I think they're so impressive to see, and you can never go wrong with a set by them. So
I saw
I'd go
them
for
do
that.
Sabotage at Tea in the Park, and it might have even been, was that the same one? That might even have been the same Tea in the Park. Was it not?
No,
it was
it
2 years
wasn't.
after that.
That was 98.
2 years after,
Yeah.
right? But the video of that at Tea in the Park is fantastic, because I think STV recorded it, so you can actually see that one.
Yeah, I was there, but not in a band.
They are have always been one of my favorites. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, did James Atkin not say the same thing?
Yeah,
the Beastie Boys live.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And because I said there's one bit of footage. In fact, I've watched the whole concert, but when they performed in the round, the gig that they chose to video and use as like the official sort of live was the Glasgow gig.
I was at that.
You're kidding me.
No, I've still got my backstage pass for it.
What, you were backstage? Oh, hang on. We're not ending this podcast yet. Manda Rin, have you met the Beastie Boys?
I was on their record label, of course I have. They were swimming in Mike D's swimming pool. I've got photos of that. John was jamming with MCA. That's the other cool photo we've got.
Alex's
as well.
little face. Oh, brilliant.
I just don't know what to say. I knew on the same label, but I wasn't going to just assume that you'd met the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, we had to go into.
And you've not just met them. You've hung out with the Beastie Boys and had close contact.
Close contacts.
Next time we meet, Manda Rin, can I shake your hand sort of quite firmly? Just as knowing that hand has shaken hands with all three of them, perhaps.
It's so sad there's no MCA anymore, but again, lovely guys. I think I'm so lucky that all the bands I've met like that, they're all amazing people, really genuine, lovely people. And like even once we were on their label, they would still, like, I remember Adrock came to see us Tramps in New York, just off his own back, and things like that is just so cool. And we did what do you call it, what's the big gig that they do in America?
Lollapalooza.
No, it's something like that, but you just put all your
South by Southwest.
No, you just put all your bands on at a venue, whatever it is. We played the Grand Royal night anyway with Ben Lee and other bands that were on the label as well. Cool guys again.
They are brilliant. As are you, Manda Rin. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. It's been so much fun. Actually, this is the way I wish all interviews were. It's so relaxed and fun talking about music again.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
It is, and that's why we started. We just love music, and we are genuinely excited for you. And I hope that those pencil dates for BIS next year become heavy pencils.
Brilliant. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Manda Rin, everyone, thank you so much. What a great guest. And before we say anything else, Chris, she's best mates with the Beastie Boys.
I know.
I cannot believe it. And I did not just assume that because they were label mates, that of course she's hung out with the Beastie Boys. I just love how much of a fangirl she is about music.
Yeah.
And I just think I fell in love with it because of that, because I just get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And she's just obviously loads of fun.
No, she's a sweetheart. And also, if you are looking to print any badges, then go on the Twitter and seek out We Badgers, because
that's
is man.
Badger,
As in the animal badge.
Yeah,
As in the animal.
as in the animal badge.
Badger.
Yeah.
The animal badge. We badgers.
We badgers.
Yeah, that's her. We badgers.
For all your badge making needs.
I mean, that sums up Manda Rin, doesn't it?
Yeah.
She makes badges as well as just, she's just amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Manda.
Yeah, so hope you enjoyed that. And apologies to Keanu. I hope we weren't too rough on you. I honestly can't remember if they were good or bad. So and you were very clear that they weren't particularly.
They were not particularly amazing. That's what I say.
Yeah,
they were not amazing, but it was so funny. I clearly remember the anticipation and feeling. I remember heading over to the other stage at Glastonbury, and everyone around was going, "We're going to go and see Keanu Reeves," and it was pure novelty. And I'm not sure that I felt that at Glastonbury before, because when you have other things like, Bruce Forsyth has packed fields and tents, you know who you're going to see, but for some reason, Keanu took it seriously. He loved it, and there was just a bit of, it was funny. And
yeah, I think there was an element of people there wanting Wild Stallions,
but I wasn't going to go on stage.
No, you weren't going to go on stage.
Exactly, and complete the duo.
Yeah, you've got one S too many.
Exactly.
Mr. Winters.
And that's a niche joke for you.
That's a niche joke, yeah.
So tell us, Chris, we've got some great news. We've mentioned it a few times in this podcast, of course. We've mentioned our good friend and composer of the Gig Stories podcast theme tune, James Holt.
James Holt. Oh, talking of sweethearts. Yeah, he's a gorgeous man. And he, last night, he won the Tough Earth International Song for Kindness, which is, I just think it's a lovely prize to win, with his song Make My Day, which is just the most sun-filled slice of Lennon-McCartney joyfulness that you could listen to. It's really interesting pop song. It goes all over the place, and in terms of the chords, and his voice is sounding lovely, and so it's well deserved. Well done, mate. That's fantastic.
Nice, James Holt. We love you, and it's great. And if you don't know James's music, seek him out right now.
Yeah,
get to iTunes, Spotify, whatever you listen, go to his website.
Yeah, go to YouTube, and also because he has been recording a series of videos where he plays all the instruments, and there's like 5 or 6 Jameses in his living room playing tunes, and they're fantastic. They're really good.
He does a Crowded House cover.
Yeah,
that I just love, and it just reminded me how much I used to love Crowded House, and still do.
Yeah.
So, check out James Holt. And I think we've got a little treat for our listeners at the end of this episode, have we not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we normally play out with James Holt.
Exactly.
With the theme tune, which doesn't have a name, actually. Or if it does have a name, then we don't know what it is apart from Gig Stories podcast theme tune. So if it doesn't have a name, and I'll check this with James, then maybe we need to get listeners to suggest what our theme tune is called.
A name
for the theme tune, yeah. Like how Mastermind, that the theme tune is called Approaching Menace. Oh,
is it?
Yeah, it's called Approaching Menace.
You're just bringing back. In fact, that's so topical for me personally that I think you're doing that on purpose, because some of you may be aware that sadly, very sadly and painfully, I came second in Celebrity Mastermind to Chris Packham, and poor Chris Packham was the victim of an arson attack this week. Someone burnt his front gates, and someone messaged me saying, "Winters, are you still bitter about losing to Chris Packham in Celebrity Mastermind?"
Oh, you were being accused of arson. Really? Oh, mate. I mean, you are still bitter, but you're not that bitter.
I'm an ass.
Yeah.
But I'm not an artist.
No.
Well,
so
send it. Packham,
love to Chris though, because that was awful. He's having a torrid time with some absolute arseholes.
The guy is a genius, and I flipping love him. I don't know how we got to there.
Oh, that took a turn, didn't it?
Please contact please contact us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gig Stories Pod. And as always, send us your questions, and please subscribe to the podcast and give us a lovely review, because it really helps our placings and will help us with advertising. And so we really appreciate it. But now, as always, but different song, we're going to play him out with James Holt. Eh?
Yeah, this is James Holt, Make My Day. See you next time.
As I lay on the ward, I've never felt as safe and reassured.